the market, in my view, overreacted to that.
Do you still believe, though, that the company has what is called home run potential?
We'll soon be starting 2 drill programs on our uranium assets.
Do you think you step down eventually after this cycle, or do you plan on sticking with the company for another one?
We fortunately have a broad portfolio of assets, both in the uranium and energy metal space, to weather any storm.
So I want to talk to you about the thing that probably put you on the map for a lot of retail investors, and also the thing that crashed your stock late last year. You probably know what I'm talking about already. And before I get to maybe the more specific questions about it, what do you have to say about the general drop that happened? Just like your general thoughts on it, how it happened. What do you think caused it? Maybe without naming any names, because we never can be certain about these things. But what do you think it means for your capital raising capabilities, the value of the company, and yeah, just give me your general thoughts on the whole happening, Rick.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the market overreacted to the news that Rio Tinto had made the decision to not have an exploration program in 2022 on our Janus Lake copper project. Listen, Rio Tinto is a very large company. They're looking for tier 1 copper deposits. They have competition within their own organization with other projects worldwide. And much to the chagrin of the Canadian Exploration Group, they didn't get a budget to continue exploration on our Janus Lake copper project, which, as your listeners probably know, was optioned to Rio Tinto. So the market, in my view, overreacted to that. We had a major newsletter writer issue a sell order, which was rather painful, the way it was done. And you know what? Selling begets selling, and it kind of got really overblown. From the standpoint, Antonio, of the quality of the project, I still believe that the Janus Lake copper project has some tremendous potential to host an economic mineral deposit. Perhaps not tier 1 size like Rio Tinto was hoping for there, but I can tell you that there's been a lot of interest in the project by a lot of mid-sized producers.
And when you say that it was painful, I can understand that, going from 50, let's call it 55 cents to down into 15 cents, right? Doesn't sound great indeed. But in all honesty, though, you did go from 12 cents to that 55 cents valuation in less than a year, right? So, some people out there may be thinking that there was no value stalling out of the company. It's just a repricing back to where you reevaluation, because some people might say, the coverage that you got from that newsletter that you mentioned, maybe that gave you that higher valuation. So don't you think that it only took away what it had given you before that and just put you at net zero? Is that a faulty assumption on my end, Rick?
Yeah, I would say so. To compare it to the previous valuation that we had to 55 cents, there was real value added there through the drilling that was done by Rio Tinto on the project. $10 million for sure went into the ground in the way of drilling, regional geophysical and geochemical surveys. A lot of value was added to that, and we know a lot more about Janus Lake now. So value was added to that copper project for sure. So that price appreciation up into the 50-cent area was well deserved. Not only that, we started to move into the strategy of advancing our uranium projects at the same time, which again, in my view, adds a lot of value to the project. So, yeah, hey, listen, it is what it is, but I think the appreciation and value into that 50-cent level was well deserved, and that the sell-off was overblown.
I agree with you that you learned a lot about the project. This was a $10 million lesson, basically. The $10 million was used to sort of teach you more about the project. But the things that the project then showed you were not what Rio Tinto was hoping about, basically, right? And so that gets me thinking whether the reasoning of some people out there, like maybe some newsletter writers or whatever, where they basically, they're saying that, well, look, it's not personal. The company's executing well enough, but the drill results at Janus Lake, they just weren't good enough to capture the attention of the market, and therefore Rio Tinto will just not go forward with putting more money than what they already had to, than the $10 million, which they, by the way, they put it in to earn the 51% interest in the project, ownership in the project, and they already earned it. And so now they don't have to spend any more money. And then you also have Orano on the other hand, nothing to do with this project, obviously, but they're also looking to be backing up on one of your more promising projects. They're not spending any more money there. And in the same time, I'm also seeing some other reasoning about you not being part of the main ETFs. And I mean the URA and the URNM, because you are now part of the HURA. And so, people saying you probably won't get included in those. I'm planning on talking about it going forward. But so that grabs the attention of the market, right? And they're saying that this basically takes away potential capital inflows from the growing story of uranium. So all these things that I'm just calling out here, all these points that I've got on my paper here, I would assume that you think that they are not exactly correct. But what do you disagree exactly with here, Rick? What do you think the market is getting wrong on these assumptions that I just mentioned?
Okay, well, number one, that the Janus Lake Copper Project is dead. It's not. Okay. It has some substantial potential. We were kind of known more as an energy metal company when the focus was on our Janus Lake copper project. But all along, we did have the inventory of uranium assets sitting there in the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan, because don't forget, we started off as a uranium company in 2004, and we have a tremendous management team with good technical expertise in uranium. So we decided to move into that direction. The market was starting to turn for uranium, and we fortunately have a broad portfolio of assets, both in the uranium and energy metal space, to weather any storm. And Hura finally put us into their portfolio, and as we explore and advance our projects and get to a higher stage of development, I'm sure the other uranium ETFs will follow.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you step down eventually after this cycle, or do you plan on sticking with the company for another one?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I get asked that all the time. You know what? I love exploration. I'm motivated to make a discovery. We'll just keep going as long as we have some really good projects and can raise the financing to advance our projects. The whole concept for our company is to make that discovery, and we'll keep going with that until the time comes where a decision like that needs to be made. But we'll keep going for sure. I mean, we're we're building up in this cycle. We're fortunate enough to build up our human resource capital with some good young talent. So, yeah, eventually down the line, yeah, there is going to have to be a transition, and so it's important for Ken and I right now to do a little bit of mentoring, and we'll see how things go down the road.
Okay, sure. You keep going as long as it takes to make a discovery. I like that. Do you still believe though that the company has what is called home run potential in other sectors? Because again, the project is not dead that Rio sort of backed up on, or that people are saying that Rio Tinto left it for dead, but they don't seem to believe that there's home run potential in copper. Otherwise, they'd be picking it up right away. That's the general thinking. But you're holding on to your own shares and warrants and all that. You say that you're going to keep going as long as it takes to make a discovery. So what do you think? Could you still hit it out of the park during this cycle, Rick?
Absolutely. Every drill campaign has that potential, Antonio. And we're not raising money to just create some sort of excitement for our shareholders. We're putting money into the assets that we think have the potential for making that home run discovery.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And why I'm asking you these questions is because I'm trying to sort of compare. Maybe you can help me do that, to sort of figure out what would the risk reward be on your stock relative to other explorers maybe in the basin, and maybe you can help me on that, because that's, as a retail investor, that's what I'm trying to figure out generally. What gives me the higher probability of making money on their deal? So let's maybe start with the probability for a reward here, and maybe you can talk to me about how you plan on monetizing all those projects that you have, because also, fair enough, right now you have a rather small market cap, but what this means is that there could be explosiveness in the stock price from here on if you find something, and if that business model works, and if you also find the right way to monetize it, of course. But that's also true for the other explorers in and outside of the basin, really, not only in the basin but outside of the basin as well. So what's the probability for you to find something during this cycle, Rick, and specifically probability, and do you think that you'll be able to better monetize it than your competitors?
Yeah, so the thing you have to recognize is that you're talking about the basin now, and you're talking about uranium. So we did explore from 2004 on a number of uranium projects, and we added new projects to the portfolio over those years, and every one of those projects have had at least one drill campaign in them. Some of them drilled by ourselves 100%, some of them with joint venture partners, other people's money, and that adds value. That adds value to each one of those projects. Discovering a uranium deposit in your first drill campaign normally doesn't happen. It takes a lot. These are small, very rich deposits. It's like the alteration zones that you come across are a bran muffin, and you're trying to find the raisin in the middle of the bran muffin. That's what you're dealing with in these uranium deposits. So to answer your question, all of our uranium exploration projects have had at least one, if not two, drill campaigns into them. They're getting a little bit closer every time to finding that raisin in the bran muffin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess it'll take time for us to see.
Compared to other players in the basin, some of them just haven't had a lot of drilling into certain projects. I think what differentiates us when you look at the portfolio is the fact that we have had they've all been drilled, and they are all drill ready.
Mm-hmm. So talking
There's
about
a lot of
probabilities.
listen. I'm not. There's a lot of good explorers in the Athabasca Basin. I'm not. I'm not going to slam anybody or anything. That's not. It's not what we do, and there's a lot of good exploration projects out there. But ours are well advanced to continue exploration to make that discovery. In my view.
No, but it makes sense. You're not. I'm sure you're not slamming anybody or whatever. Talking about probabilities, because that was a question that I asked you. Is talking about probabilities? The more drilling you have done, the closer you are to a discovery. That's just what the numbers show. Just the mother basin, the Athabasca Basin, just wants your money to be in the ground before it gives you some uranium. You can look at it that way, because you've mentioned a few times what your plans are going forward. So let's take a look at that more specifically. You were at MIF